Hey everyone, welcome to episode 6 of series 4 of the Healthy Aging podcast. And we are actually doing something a wee bit different today. So this would normally be a guest that we would have on, but we have decided that since we've come to the end of the kind of first 4 pillars. So that was always the intention. We were going to have 4 pillars of the podcast, and we've now come to the end of the 4th one. And what we thought we'd do is we would actually do a wee bit of reflection on what we've loved about the podcast and kind of what we've learned. So Susie, I will hand it over to you and just ask you what has been your favourite bits so far.
I think the list is too long to say what the favourite bits are, because there are very, very many of them, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting over the podcast. And I mean, I don't know if you remember, but we actually started it in August 2021 is when we started the podcast. Right at the beginning of August 2021, we started off with mindset. We had 5 incredible guest speakers who really, really helped me to just get just that reminder of the importance of mindset. Now, when we're recording this, it's going to go out mid-January of 2022. People are listening to it in replay, but for people that are listening to it live, you know, we've still got absolute chaos going on in the world, and we do have, and you can't get away from it. But it's how we deal with that chaos is how we can then live our life in 2022. And January is always a huge time of reflection for me. I spend a lot of time in reflection, looking at what have I achieved in the last year, what have I achieved in the past 5 years, what would I like to achieve moving forward, am I in alignment with my purpose, what is my purpose, has it changed? All these different things go through my head at the beginning of January. They go through my head a lot, but even more so at the beginning of January. I'm not into New Year's resolutions, but I'm massively into goal setting, and some people would call a New Year's resolution goal setting. The difference, I believe, is a New Year's resolution, people just throw it out there and don't 100% commit. When I put a goal out, I commit to the goal and will continue to work until I achieve that goal. And so whether that be to do with having a healthy mindset, or whether that's to be fit and strong, or to live to 100, I'm going to 100. You know, it's having that goal in mind and working towards it. And the mindset part really, really, really helped me with that. And I just think that we're so fixated on how we look, getting into the gym, all these different things that I think we spend possibly a bit too much time on, or I'm speaking generally. I know that I do. You know, in the fact of my skincare, because that's what we're talking about just now. We're talking about the skincare side of it. So, you know, one tiny little spot comes out and it's like, oh my gosh, why have I got a spot? And yet I would never have spots. You know, it's just something very unique for me. And so it's getting into that mindset of going, you know, it's a little spot, you can cover it up and move on with your life. It's not, whereas before, things like that, it's so simple, but things like that would have possibly prevented me from going out the door because I was worried that I've got a spot and what will people think when they see it? And, you know, so anyway, you asked me a simple question. I'm still going on about it. I just think that on reflection, it is the whole thing of the guests that we've had on, the things that we've learned. I love the 4 pillars. They're very important to me as a person. And I just hope that people have really, really learned things from it. You know, they've took things and they've changed things because, and I'll come back to this, Lorraine, there is two things that, no, actually there's 3 things that stand out massively for me that I've changed since this podcast, or maybe not changed, but I've implemented. And I'll share that in a little minute, but I'm going to come back to you and ask you the same question. You know, what's been your takeaways? Have you made changes because of the podcast?
Yeah, so I think same as you, there's too many things to kind of put it down into to pick anything. But the thing that has really, really kind of stood out for me is the repetitiveness of the message that we've had across the pillars, you know, whatever it would be within mindset. You know, the guests all spoke of a lot of the same things in a different way, maybe applied a different way, but it was a lot of the same messages. In fitness, we found that as well. It was, again, a lot of the same messages. So, and what's kind of really stood out for me is, if you're looking to make a change, it's actually simple. We make it so complicated, and I just think that, you know, it's actually simple. And I think that is what's kind of stood out for me, because of that repetitiveness of the message. So mindset, one of the things that came up, I think, with every guest was gratitude. You know, that came up. Everyone spoke about that. We do know, you know, the power of gratitude. I don't practice it daily, or I didn't practice it daily. I did it if I wanted something, or, you know, I was going through a bad time or whatever. I was in and out and in and out and in and out. So that was kind of one of the main things that stood out. Within fitness, it was really taking it back to basics. So that is, you know, we've spoken in the podcast before about, you know, my kind of ups and downs with weight and fitness and health and all of those types of things. So it was so interesting for me to kind of just hear from all our experts about cut out all the fads, go back to basics, but be consistent. So yeah, there's definitely things that I've implemented since when we've been doing the podcast. One is gratitude, another one is meditation, you know, always doing my meditation no matter what. And then we'd started our strength training. So that was one of the things that came up in fitness. We committed to doing our 5 minutes every day of strength training. My routine on it has changed a wee bit. It's kind of gradually I've done more. So I've actually lost, well, it was a full stone I'd lost, but we've just had Christmas and New Year, so I think I've put on another, like, about 4 pounds or something. But that's another thing, don't get caught up in the scales. But anyway, I am moving towards my goal when it comes to getting healthier, getting fitter, feeling better. So yeah, that's been quite a biggie.
That's really exciting, and I didn't know that. You know, I didn't know you'd lost that stone, because obviously I don't see you. And that's absolutely brilliant, Lorraine. So huge congratulations! And if we can get that type of feedback from others, then it's been that's what we're looking to achieve. You know, we just want people to live a life that's happier, healthier, in alignment with them, and aging well, like really, really aging well. And I love the fact that you talk about the strength training that we implemented and how you've changed that and you're doing more of it, etc. I've been the opposite, which is hilarious, because of course we've joked all the way through the podcast about my consistency and your challenges with consistency. But I actually allowed the strength training to just disappear at the beginning of December, and that was due to moving to America, you know. So one of my things, I can be so rigid on my routines and my consistency that no matter what's going on in my life, I will still do that. You know, I mean, it can be absolutely chaotic around me, and I'm like, nope, I committed to doing this, so I'm doing it. Whereas I didn't do that this time. And that was a lot of that was from the mindset section of the learning to let go. And again, I'm challenged with the letting go and the consistency thing, because I think that sometimes we can let go too easily and make excuses and say, well, you know, that was stressing me out, so I'm just letting go. And so the balance of that's really important for me, and the fact that I had to appreciate that moving to America was a really big thing. It's not a small thing. It's huge. And it probably will be one of the biggest things that I choose to do in my life. And so it's okay to take that month out and go, actually, no, I'm not going to do the strength training for a month, because I want to be with my loved ones to say cheerio to them. I don't know when I'll see them again. I want to make this move an exciting part of our life, not a stressful part of our life. I want to embrace all the changes of America. I want to explore America. And that has been really, really healthy for me, because, as I said, I would normally have been the opposite. I would have been stressed out. I would have been desperate I've committed to that strength training, I'm doing it. But actually just the letting go of, this is a whole new change of lifestyle for you, Susie, and just, you know, let go of it. So that was one of the big things for me, is the full mindset around that strength program. And I'm back on it again. That's me back to my daily yoga and my strength program and my cardio as well. The other thing that I've implemented, like what you said, just very, very simple, a litre of water every morning. Elfa spoke about it. I've known Elfa for years, and she's, I don't remember if we shared it on the podcast, but we had Catherine Freeman on last week, and Elfa had shared had stayed with Catherine Freeman a few times, and Catherine lives on the west coast of Scotland, and Elfa would be out swimming in the sea at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and Catherine was thinking, she's absolutely nuts, what's she doing? But it's because she was wide awake and full of energy. And I'm talking, this was 4 or 5 years ago when people were not doing cold water swimming, and she was in that water, because she had the energy. She knew the importance of the elements of cold water, but the foundation of everything that Elfa does is around nutrition. And so when she recommends things, I always listen. And that was one simple change. From the day she said it, that's one thing. Even during the move, I've had a litre of water every single day. Every day. Chris and I have stayed at a lot of hotels recently. And first thing I do is I get up, go down to the restaurant and get my water, or I buy bottled water in the room. So that was.
I think it's amazing when you do that, because I did start it, and that's not one of the things that I've stayed consistent on. But it's amazing how when you get up in the morning, you actually feel like you need it, even though you've been drinking a whole load of more water than what you normally would through the course of the day. But that's what I found when I was doing it. I was like, I actually wake up really craving this. Like, I really feel as if I need it. Whereas if you're not doing it, like, you can go a wee while before you feel like you need a drink of water. But and do you still have the lemon in it as well? That's what Elfa had said, wasn't it? To have the lemon in it.
There's times when I've not been able to have the lemon in it. And there's a girl that you and I know from Bulgaria. I can't pronounce her name, but we know her as Benny. And she works in the new skin business. And Chris and I had been away with Benny and her partner Darren to like a corporate event, and we'd stayed overnight. And this was before we had Elfa on the podcast. But Benny's a massive follower of Elfa, so Elfa does a reset every January. So she started a new reset. Actually, she does it more than just January. She does it a lot. And Benny's always part of the reset, and she does a lot of Elfa's work. And in the morning, Benny had got her water. I just remember it because it was fascinating watching her. And she had her lemon, and she'd cut it in half. So she just got a knife from the kitchen, cut it in half, squeezed it into her water, but then she got a spoon, a little teaspoon, and she went into the lemon and just like scooped it all to get every last minute of the juice out. So normally I've got a lemon squeezer. It's actually an amazing device. I got it from, I think it was Pampered Chef I got it from. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it squeezes the lemon and it goes right into your water and gets rid of all the seeds. So watching Benny doing that, because I'd thought to myself, oh, I wonder why she's doing that. And then when we had Elfa on, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember when Benny was sitting, like getting every bit of that lemon out and putting it into her water. And so while I've been travelling, that's what I've been doing. I've always got a teaspoon now in my bag. And my lemons. So if I go to a restaurant or a like a B&B in the morning when we're having a breakfast and I get my big water, I squeeze my lemon into it. And it's funny because obviously one of your early guests was Kathy Quinlan Perez from PSI Seminars. And during this podcast, we've ran a PSI event in London. Was it London? It was London, wasn't it? Yeah. And I was sharing a room with Lynette Gray, who we've also had on the podcast.
Yeah.
And every single morning I was up cutting my lemons, using my teaspoon, putting it into the water. And she was just looking at me, and you could see her in her head. She's just laughing, going, she is so funny with her quirky routines. But it was just like, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing that. So while we're talking, I'm just going to give PSI a little plug, because we do have a PSI seminar coming up in March. It's the end of March. It's going to be in Scotland this time. Ooh. So yeah, dead excited about that. So anybody that's ever done the PSI basic seminar, they can come back and re-audit, it's called, and they pay £50 to re-audit, or no, they don't, they pay £75 to re-audit, or they enrol somebody. So if they recommend a friend who comes along, they get to re-audit it for free. And it's a 3-day seminar, which, again, here I go. Recently, Lorraine, I'm very aware that I'm doing a lot of talking. That's me all over, though, isn't it? But recently, I've had an awful lot of messages from people, lovely messages, just saying, "I'm loving watching your life in America, Susie." So when we arrived in America, Lorraine, we arrived and within a week we went to Florida. We just were like, let's go and take some chill out time. So we went down to Florida, lay on the beach for 5-6 days, came back, started to get into things. Then it was New Year and we're like, let's go to New York for New Year. So we just went to New York for New Year and we brought in the bells in New York. So in such a short period of time, in less than a month, we've been in Washington, DC, Florida and New York in the middle of a pandemic. And this is, so people in the UK are watching this and saying, oh my God, Suze, it's amazing watching your lifestyle, etc., etc. And what I've said to everybody is that lifestyle would not have been possible had it not been for, one, my new skin business, but two, the work that I've done with PSI, the mindset work to be able to help me through the challenges of the pandemic, but also to believe that I can do and have and be whatever I want.
Yeah.
And that again was a big realization. Just yesterday on reflection, I was like, you know what? I'm very committed to the PSI work, but I really, really want other people to come along and experience it because it has literally helped to change my life, as has New Skin. And we've never ever spoke about the business in New Skin, really. We spoke about the products. But, you know, New Skin is a network marketing business. And basically what that means is we bring people into our business and we help them become successful, or we help them earn extra money, or we help them with a mindset, or through a business model, which is all around anti-aging, and in our opinion, the best anti-aging products in the market. You know, so that's something else for people that's listening to this podcast. There's no reason why, if they're looking for something better, different, there's no reason why they can't reach out to you and I and just say, you know, go and give me more information about this New Skin business. I'd like to hear about it. Yeah. Or go and give me more information about PSI seminars. I'd like to come along and do something like that. And listen, that's just my experience, but those two things have been, they've changed my life, and it's that simple, you know. So.
Yeah, and I think there's some scary statistics out there about how women in particular have been affected by the pandemic, and we're still in the midst of it. You know, as we sit here, just finishing off our lovely Christmas and New Year celebrations. Any minute we could get an email to say the schools aren't going back. You know, we don't know what's going to happen, and I think women have just had to take on all of this additional stuff, you know, homeschooling, working from home with your kids there, which is just the craziest thing in the whole wide world to even try and do. And I think in America, it was American statistics I was looking at, and it was, you know, the number of women that have had to give up work, they've lost their job. You know, people are losing jobs, but, you know, employers can be pretty ruthless sometimes when it comes to choosing who they can, you know, they keep in their business, and sometimes mums aren't convenient in their business. So there is just really, really horrifying statistics about how women have been affected. And I think it has made me appreciate New Skin more than ever, because it is so inclusive. It's for everybody. You know, it might not be your choice, but it could, if it is something that you think you want to do, it is a place where you belong. You know, the culture's amazing. You know, it's absolutely brilliant. We could talk about it all day.
I know.
And Sai is the same. You know, it's like nothing else. I've worked in personal development, so I've worked in personal development companies, other companies, and with other people that deliver personal development courses. And there's just nothing like Sai. You know, it's very much taking responsibility for your own life. You know, it's not let's all hold your hand and sit down and make excuses for ourselves. It is very much let's take some responsibility for this one life that we are gifted with, and let's make the most of it. So, so you're absolutely right. It's great to mention that here, and hopefully there will be some people that could be helped by either of those two amazing companies.
And I do think as well, you know, obviously the podcast is all about healthy aging, but today we're talking about just life in general. But all of that contributes to how we age. It definitely does. And taking responsibility for your life is something that I would say that is a really big part of PSI, of PSI. And I would have always thought I was a person that did take responsibility until I went on that and went, oh my gosh, you know, and again, our choices that we're making through the pandemic, we have to be responsible for those choices. And we have to be, I'm not going to say happy with the choices, we have to be content with the choices that we make. And one of the big things, well, look at yesterday, for example, we'll have a laugh at this. I had to get something organised and I didn't get it done in time. And it was because of the technology. And I emailed you and I was like, oh yeah, it's because of the technology. And then I messaged you back and went, actually, it's nothing to do with the technology. It's me not knowing the technology. It's not the technology's fault. It's me not knowing the technology. And that's the difference. Whereas when you don't take 100% responsibility, you're always looking for external blame. And when you're always looking for external blame, you can never, ever have inner peace, ever.
No.
Whereas if you can be 100% responsible, you know, and we talk about, I don't think we've spoke about it on this podcast, but again, I was thinking about this morning. The book, The Secret.
Yep.
I love that book. I think it's an incredible book. I also think it's a brilliant book to introduce people to the world of personal development because it's quite a simple, easy read. And if you've never been into personal development, you can pick up that book and kind of get an understanding. Listen, some people read it and go, that's just far too way out there for me. It's too crazy, and that's fine. But if you read The Secret, you resonate with The Secret, and you want to live your life by The Secret, you have to take 100% responsibility, because remember what The Secret talks about. We create everything. Everything. We create it. Not the government creates it, not your mum creates it, not your friend creates it. You. We. So our thoughts go out into that universe and they make the universe shift and change. Now, again, I know that this will probably be a wee bit like woo-woo and out there for people. But if all we can do is love and send out goodness to the world, things will change. But while we're in fear and criticising and judging because of people's choices, we're not going to change things. So we need to get back to love, appreciation, gratitude. You don't have to agree with people, but you don't have to be disrespectful. They're a human being. They're the same as you and I. And it's like, let's get back to that. Yes. When we're doing our meditation, sending out love and peace and happiness. And
yeah,
anyway.
So funny. I had this conversation around this very dining table this morning where my sons were doing a thing on Minecraft. And I was like, you know, this should be lovely. Like, they're coming together, they're building this house together. And it was just torture listening to them argument, like disrespecting each other, all of this stuff. So we're having our breakfast and I was saying, or our lunch, and I was saying, you know, even if someone begins to annoy you, this isn't just about each other. This is like in general, if someone annoys you, just don't get annoyed. Don't let it get to you. Just say thank you to the person, or you don't even need to say thank you. Just in your head, Oscar, you say, oh, thank you, Max, for helping me. Or Max, if your brother's annoying you because he doesn't understand what you're saying or something, you can just say, oh, thank you for allowing me to pass this knowledge on. Now, it didn't go down well. There's no way that that's going to... They're just like, okay, I think Max said, yeah, I'm not a book, I'm a human being or something. So, but at least I've planted the seeds. You never know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like, you feel better if you just say thank you in every situation, whatever the situation is. Be thankful for it, because it's going to teach you a lesson, or you're going to learn something. So
And then remember, we've been doing some Darren Hardy work as well. Darren Hardy, a master of leadership. He talks about how children will not do as you say, but they'll do as you do. So you planting the seed and then you making sure that you don't get annoyed at people.
Well, I did say, so when I'm sitting here now and it's like actually pretty heartbreaking listening to two people who are supposed to love each other or who do love each other, you know, being mean to each other and arguing and all of that stuff, I just say, I'm so thankful for these two lovely boys I've got who've got really strong opinions, who know how to speak their mind, who know how to express themselves, because that stops me from coming in there and like giving you into trouble or telling you sit over there, you sit over there. Not saying that doesn't happen sometimes, right? But it does, like. But in the instance this morning, I did just think, oh gosh, that's great that they've got like these, both of them have got these really strong opinions, and you know they're not worried about expressing themselves and all of this stuff. So yeah, I did practice what I preached in that instance. But yeah, it's just about making sure the consistency's there.
Listen, hopefully this chat and our podcast helps people with that. You know, we can't be perfect all the time. We could do our best, but you know, again, I said to you, we were in New York, and people in New York were rude. They lived up to what people say about them, and but that doesn't mean to say that every person in New York's like that. Not at all. And whatever we believe, we will find reason to back up our beliefs. It's what we do as human beings. And so there was a part of me that believed that New York people were rude. So there I am holding the door for people and they just walk through and don't say thank you to me. And I'm like, you're welcome. And Chris is in stitches going, really, babe? Like, going to let it go, Elsa? You know, and the two of us are in stitches at my reaction to that, because it's like, yeah, I mean, come on. Did you hold the door open for someone to get thanks, or did you hold the door open because you wanted to hold the door open? I held the door open because I wanted to hold the door open. So why am I looking for anything in return? You know, it's so funny, so funny. But I'm just, again, a wee moment of reflection. I'm heading to Nepal, all being well. I'm heading to Nepal in 2 weeks' time. Actually, a week and a half. In fact, when this podcast comes out, I'll probably be in Nepal. I will be. Anyway. So, but the very, very first time, I said this is going to be my third time in Nepal. And the very, very first time I went to Nepal, I had been reading the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, also known as The Greatest Secret. It's the same book, but one's got accountability attached to it. And Dan McCormick, who we've had on the podcast as well, he spoke about that. You know, he's a huge, he's an ambassador for the Og Mandino group. Og Mandino is the author of that book. And the first chapter starts with, I will greet this day with love in my heart. It's actually chapter 2. I will greet this day with love in my heart. And it's a scroll, and you read the scroll 3 times a day. And on the last day, you read it out loud. So I'd started it in Nepal. And honestly, I was walking through the streets in Nepal. I think I maybe shared it on the podcast. I'm saying to people, because then it says, I'll greet this day with love in my heart. And when I look at people, I'll tell them that I love them. And I'm walking through the streets going, I love you, I love you, I love you. So it's funny that I'm heading back to Nepal. We're having this conversation because it reminded me of that time. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to go back to that. So when I send all the love to all the Nepalese people when I get there, I'll send it to all our listeners and all around America, the UK and the world as well. So
yeah. Love it. I love it. That's been great, hasn't it? That's gone a wee bit off track, hasn't it? Surprise for us.
Like us,
Who knows where it might go? But no, that's been it's been nice to have that wee reflection and kind of look back on things and mention some of the amazing people that we've had. It's just been great. And on that note, we're actually going to be making a few changes to the podcast, aren't we, and how we do things. So do you want to fill everybody in on what we're going to be doing?
Yeah. So again, reflection. You and I have been doing a lot of reflecting over the podcast, and I know that we've both loved it. And we're looking at, right, why did we want to create the podcast? And it was to help educate ourselves. It was to help get the message out about the importance of healthy aging. It was to build new networks, meet new people, all these different things. And we've loved doing it, but we do feel that we need to reach more people. And that's an area that we're going to be working on over the next 6 weeks. So we're going to be working on how do we reach more people? And that's going to be through promotion, etc. And so we're going to have a 6-week break and use that time to reach more people. So if you're listening to this, please help us do that. And we'll be back in March with new guests. We're not going to be as structured. So we're going to have people in that are just going to be talking about healthy aging in general, rather than healthy aging fitness, healthy aging nutrition. It's going to be healthy aging general, because what we have found, didn't we, Lorraine, was that there was a massive crossover.
Yeah, yep, we did. I mentioned that at the start. We found that people were talking about the same topics, just maybe it's implemented a different way, or their take on it, which was amazing. Like, we've absolutely loved it. But yeah, there was definitely kind of quite obvious crossover when we were going through the sections.
Yeah, so we'll just have different people in, but and we're going to do once a fortnight instead of weekly, to allow us to really promote that person. That person's been good enough to join us, to give us their time, and we want to do the best that we can with that person and make sure that their message gets out to as many people as possible. And so that's for us to step up and take on that responsibility.
Yeah,
and do that. So that's what we're looking to do. So today is the last podcast until the beginning of March. We don't have exact dates yet. We'll definitely come back to you with them. But what we would encourage everybody to do is go back and listen to the podcasts. If you've missed one, go and listen. You'll be amazed at what you pick up from it. Listen to your podcast when you're driving, when you're out walking, when you're doing the washing up. There's different times when you can listen to it. And so it's just getting yourself into a habit and routine of being like, right, I'm going to listen to one of Susie and Lorraine's podcasts today and find out who they've got on, and then share that with your networks. So I think I've covered everything. Lorraine, is there anything?
Yep. No, that was it. A few wee changes to come, but we think for the better. So we're very excited to get back at it in March.
Indeed. And I'll have all my stories to tell about Nepal. Well, I have got nothing else to say, which is unlike me. I'm just going to close the podcast off by saying thank you so much to yourself, Lorraine, for being an awesome co-host. I think I've been a little bit hard on you sometimes. Again, reflecting, I'm like that. You're a bit cheeky. You're a bit too cheeky, Lorraine. You're talking about love and gratitude, and then you sit here slagging her off in front of everybody, Susie Mollison. I think it's amazing to hear your changes, and for people that don't see us on YouTube, you need to go and jump on YouTube and have a wee look at Lorraine today. She's absolutely glowing. She's looking phenomenal. So our changes are definitely working. Aww. So that's all I'm going to say to all of you, is like, go and listen to these podcasts and you'll be glowing like Lorraine. You just have to implement the changes. But no, thanks so much to everybody that listens, to your support, for your comments, your feedback. It really, really means the world to us. And you can find us on Spotify, on all the other podcast platforms. We still aren't on Apple. That is going to be a goal for us to achieve that. And you can get us on YouTube as well. Healthy Aging Podcast. Follow us on Instagram.
We nearly did it. That was nearly a whole podcast, we know. Oh no, listen, thank you so much to you too. It's been just been brilliant to hear. I've learned so much about you actually that I never knew before. So that's been really, 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 really good. And listen, you've never been too hard at all. It's been hilarious. The kid, sending your kid out in the rain thing, was a particular highlight that day.
The wind.
The wind. Sorry, the wind.
It was the wind.
The rain.
So I'm not going to forget that
good.
Brilliant. Oh, all right, we'll see you all in March.
See you later.